I'm very pleased now to be joined by the president of the Occupational Therapy Association of South Africa, and that's Alawani Manenje. And we are talking specifically about why this project, this new venture creation project, is so important to OTASA. Alawani, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to chat to me.
Thank you, Ivor. I'm pleased to be here.
Generally, why is this an important project?
I think looking at where South Africa is currently in terms of its economic status and the high unemployment rate, it is important for us as an association to respond to the needs of our members in terms of their employment opportunities, and also to see how practices and occupational therapy as a profession grows. So we looked at the challenge that young professionals are having immediately after their community service. Jobs are scarce. Normally, they would be absorbed in the public sector. And as people might have heard, there are austerity measures in that space. And as a result, we are sitting with occupational therapists that are jobless. Now, that does not mean that there is no need in the market. So we have seen opportunities that have been created in terms of helping young professionals to start new businesses. And I think that is why it is important for us as OTASA to guide and give mentorship to young professionals who are solving a national crisis.
In putting this project together, OTASA has created a partnership with the Health and Welfare sector in particular. And that partnership is really around allowing for new businesses to be created within the sector, but also to become NHI ready. This relationship with the Health and Welfare sector is becoming more and more important for OTASA, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. And I think the biggest lesson that we learned when they called for a stakeholder engagement is they sit with a lot of solutions that we have been looking for opportunities, that we see as opportunities, if I may say. When you look at the new venture creation project, it fell squarely into the strategic objectives of OTASA. And we could not have seen, we had an idea that we did not know how to fund. And when we looked at the health and welfare sector and their objectives, we meshed them very, very positively. So when looking at this relationship between the health and welfare sector, whose main objective is to make sure that health professionals are trained, skilled, and are able to respond to the needs of South Africans. And OTASA's objective, where we would like to have professionals who are skilled and current. We found that there is a synergy between our two objectives, and therefore it serves as a potentially long-term process that we can engage in as both stakeholders.
This project screams primary healthcare. Obviously, it screams all the other good things about occupational therapy, but in principle, it screams primary healthcare. That's what I'm most excited about. Am I right in feeling that excited?
You are. You are. And I'm hoping that all the other occupational therapists will join us. And I will share this with you. I went into Mpumalanga and I shared this dream with us. And I can already say the occupational therapists there at that time were already able to assist us in identifying the underdeveloped areas where occupational therapy practices, whether public or private, have not developed yet. Looking at what occupational therapy is and what it offers, we offer integration in the community, and that happens strategically at the primary healthcare level. So this is an opportunity to actually become the occupational therapist that we are trained to be.
When you think about private practice, you think about private practice in Sandton City, in Rosebank, in Umhlanga. But you don't think about private practices, businesses run by occupational therapists in rural areas, in far outreach areas which are required. Why is that? Why is it that it takes a project like this to say to people, there's an entire market out there, potential market for you in terms of primary healthcare, in terms of occupational therapy patients, And no one's touching those people. No one's reaching out to those people. We at OTASA are going to get you, our new members, to start seeing them as your future markets. Why has it taken so long?
I am not sure why it took us so long. I suppose it is the urbanization, a thought process that we've always had, that if you're going to make it, you need to make it in the city. But I think OTASA is going to lead a process where we are able to say, you need to thrive where you are, which is something that is very close to my heart. If we can make occupational therapists succeed in their communities, then I think we contribute more in the development of those communities. We have looked at very practical things like where are occupational therapists? Where are the gaps? As I indicated when I was in Mpumalanga. And whilst new practices could be identified as a threat to established practices, when we start looking at the primary healthcare platform and the rural communities, then those practices that are established actually have a huge market that stands untapped. And that is what we are looking at as OTASA, to move away from what was traditionally believed. And we have confirmed with our members that there is overpopulation of occupational therapy practices in more urban areas. And how do we navigate our way into those rural communities? And I think this project that starts us off and gets us into that space where we have to challenge ourselves to think outside the box. And I cannot imagine doing it differently, where established practices are going into rural communities to mentor young professionals who are starting businesses. And at the end of this, my wish is that we can actually have 100+ new practices that are established in rural communities, at least in the next 5 years, and that are sustainable and able to provide professional identity for OTs. We have always been challenging ourselves to implement occupational therapy with a South African identity. And part of our identity are those rural communities. If we can respond in that space, then we will be relevant to the South African population.
What I think is particularly important about this project is that in doing this very exciting new thing, you're not leaving your members behind. In fact, you're pulling your members along with you as mentors and as coaches, the established private practices. And in such a way, you're giving them a benefit equally as much as you're giving these new businesses a benefit.
The balance between the established, experienced occupational therapists and practices and the excitement and energy of the young ones, I think will just bring that balance that South Africa needs. We are seeing our members becoming a solution to the South African challenge. And we are seeing ourselves as a profession not looking outward for solutions, but looking amongst ourselves, though we will contract from time to time outside our own profession. But the bulk, we believe in the skill that sits within the occupational therapy fraternity in South Africa. And we believe in the skill, the business skills, the mentorship skills, and the coaching skills that are sitting with successful businesses in South Africa. So the challenge has been for us, this current executive, to raise the status of occupational therapy. And I don't see how better to raise it than in responding to the national crises.
What for me is most probably one of the biggest advantages of this project is that all of the practices we're working with, the new practices that are being created, and the pre-existing practices where the practice owners and the practice managers are being used as mentors and coaches, all of those practices will be audited. They will be the pilot group of the OTASA practice auditing activity that will then result in creating a register of NHI-ready practices against the standards that have been set globally and adopted locally and amended locally for the NHI purpose, but also by the Health Professions Council. That's extremely exciting because that's initiating a new register that says we've looked at these practices, they meet all of the standards for our practice audit, we've trained up practice auditors, and these practices have voluntarily subjected themselves to being assessed and measured against these new standards to initiate this register that can be handed over to the National Health Initiative and say, to say, these are the OT practices ready to be preferential suppliers when you open your doors. That is a very, very powerful project.
We start getting our practices to actually start doing work towards where they participate, and we're no longer just doing the consultation process towards NHI readiness, which has been a buzzword within OTASA for the past 5 years. And having consulted internationally in terms of what NHI looks like and what NHI will demand, and when we have had our public hospitals assessed, we have learned from these processes what is required and where we have to improve. Now, if in the process of developing new businesses, we can as well get the ones that are existing ready for NHI, and I think one of the benefits of the practice audits is that whether it is funders that want to know how we do our business and how we run, or it is the regulator, which is the Office on Healthcare Standards, or the Department of Health, or any other department for that matter, we will have information that is ready. This says we run open businesses and we hold ourselves in high regard and at a very high professional standard. What that does for the profession is unbelievable. It is unbelievable in terms of building a reputation and trust with our stakeholders. But at the same time, we already instill in the young professionals that when you run a business, it will be audited, and therefore you need to hold yourself at a high standard. So it is such an opportunity, and to have an NHI register that is a practice register that is ready for NHI, it's just out of this world, because by the time we get to implementation, which we're anticipating in 3 years, that the regulations will come. When we have to comment on the regulations, it will be out of practice that we comment and not necessarily out of what is written there. So we will be able to guide the profession and guide the NHI office appropriately.
So, Madam President, you are talking now to a cohort of newly qualified occupational therapists who may have been practicing for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But equally, you're talking to a cohort of well-established, seasoned private practice owners and practice managers. As a final parting comment, what is your call to action to those two communities to make this a successful project?
Where I will start is with the young professionals who have an entrepreneurial spirit, who want to start their businesses, who want to thrive. OTASA would like to support you in your dreams. And we would like to call you to, as soon as the advert is put out, we would like you to put in your submissions. We want to know what will make you successful, because in the long run, we want to support businesses that are sustainable. We would like you to present to us where you're at. We're looking at young professionals in rural communities. We're looking at young professionals who either have started their businesses already or who are in the process of starting. It is our wish that you have tried yourself and are convinced that you want to be in business. We would also like to work with young professionals who are contracted by any government department, and you're providing services for them. At the same time, we would like you to also have a feel of where you would like your own private practice to go, because you will have to develop your own developmental plan. And that is what we will be supporting you on. For the more established occupational therapists, I know you have been calling the office and you're already ready to get on well with it. The project that you've been waiting for, colleagues, is going to be launched. We have received the necessary support from the health and welfare sector. We are ready to start. We would like those practices that are established, that are credible, that have the interest of developing young professionals to please avail themselves. We will go through a stringent process of evaluating. We only have 40 spots, and therefore we cannot take everyone on. So please be ready to be to present yourself in a way that we will be able to select you. But the competition is high. There is interest in terms of those who would like to be mentored and those who would like to mentor. And we are proud as your association to support you in this process.
President, as a parting shot on a point of clarification, we're talking about different communities of private practices in this project. And as far as the new practices are concerned, we're talking about practices which want to focus in rural areas, want to focus on a private-public participative kind of a relationship between private practice and the public sector, specifically around primary healthcare. And we're also talking about individuals who want to practice in their own private practices in urban areas. But the reality is that we have a priority with our allocation. We have a very small amount to be able to allocate initially for this pilot project, and we're looking to split it between those three focuses. And it's absolutely fantastic that OTASA, I think, is the leading healthcare profession in this country that's able to move forward and say, as you've said, let's operationalize our discussions and not wait for something to be done to us. Madam President, thank you so much for speaking to me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I see us moving from height to height, and I cannot wait for this to be launched in November.